All right, everybody right to go?
Not quite.
Yep. First things first, there's 25 active cases of coronavirus in Victoria. 17,270 test results received today, which is a good strong number. The weekend was down a bit, but that's not an unexpected thing. There are 0 new cases. There's 1 person remains in hospital but not in ICU. And we continue to do that day 11 testing. And if you like, just following through, the last of the cases from the Holiday Inn outbreak, the 14th day for them is this Friday. And whilst we'll leave those announcements until Thursday or Friday, we are well placed given we continue to see no additional cases and lots of negative test results from that target cohort. So again, we thank them because they've been, whilst the rest of us have been getting back to something close to normal, they've been at home isolating for all of us. So we're very grateful for them, and we just send our best wishes to them. I can also confirm there's 580 vaccines have been administered on the very first day of that program. The important thing there is to do it, you know, in a slow and steady way. We want to minimise any wastage. We want to make sure that people are getting the first shots, and then we'll have to circle back, and everybody else have to have their second shot, obviously. But that's made a very, very good start, and those numbers will build, obviously, as the days and weeks unfold. Again, we'll send our best wishes to what is a massive team of people who are setting up what is largely, well, I think people have said it's a big health task. I think it could be the biggest logistical task that the country's ever seen when you really think about it. That many doses, then having to redose everybody, changing from one vaccine to the other in just a couple of months. It's a big job, but it is the beginning of the end of this pandemic, and it's 580 doesn't seem very many, but it is a really good start, and one that I think all Victorians will be very pleased in. Now, the reason we're here today is to acknowledge some very significant progress that's being made on the North East Link. This is a project that creates 10,300 jobs, and those jobs have never been more important than they are now. This removes 36 sets of traffic lights, essentially joins the M80 ring road with an upgraded Eastern Freeway, gives local roads back to local residents, so they're not competing with all that traffic that comes from the north, all the traffic that comes in terms of truck movements. This is about thousands of trucks off local roads and essentially giving local roads back to local residents. It's the biggest road project in our state's history, arguably one of the biggest in our nation's history. Those jobs are important. The progress we're making is very important. This will be finished in 2027. 35-minute travel time savings for some of the most popular journeys. So it really is a significant project, and one that we're pleased to be able to mark a milestone. There's one of 3 what are called mini, they're 40 tonnes, but they're called mini tunnel boring machines, and that's to remove a sewer line not far from here. So there's a 1.8 kilometre section of 1.8 metre sewer piping that has to be moved so that the North East Link can run on the route that's been chosen. So that's a very significant engineering undertaking. But the fact that the first of those 3 machines has landed means that work can start quite soon. You've seen the launch site. To Brendan and all of his team, thanks for showing us around today, and thanks for the work that you're doing. And of course, Duncan and the broader North East Link team are doing a fantastic job. This project has never been more important. It's not easy, it's a complex project like all of these very big projects, but the jobs, the safety, the travel time benefits, and the fact that local roads will be for local residents once more, that's exactly why we're getting on and getting these projects built. Autumn is going to be particularly busy, and I'll throw to JA in a minute to talk about some of the inevitable disruption that will occur in the next few months. But whether it's the Cranbourne line upgrade, Metro Tunnel, Westgate Tunnel, or really significant construction activity on 20, not less than 20 separate level crossing projects, it's going to be a very, very busy autumn, and that's great for the economy. It's great for hitting our targets and milestones on all these projects, and it's a credit to all of those who are working so hard in a COVID environment to get on and deliver the projects that Victorians voted for. They've never been more important, and can I thank all the North East team that are with us here today. Very strong supporters on behalf of their local community, and it is really pleasing to see milestones like this reached today. I now might ask Jacinta to speak to well, anything on this project, but also some of the other work that's going on over the next few months. There will be disruption. There will be buses replacing trains. There'll be some traffic. There'll be all sorts of issues, but these projects are critically important, and pushing on, getting them done, arguably now's the time where there'll be the biggest economic benefit, because we know how hard people are doing it right across Victoria. Jacinta.
Thanks, Premier. Thanks, Premier. It is great to be here with yourself and our colleagues from the northern suburbs of Melbourne and Duncan Elliott and the Early Works team to see the great progress that is being made on the North East Link project. And as the Premier said, we are really heading into autumn, ramping up with a whole range of works happening right across the city and the state. And we're asking Victorians to plan their journeys, to check out the Big Build website, to plan ahead, because there will be a number of disruptions across the road and the rail network, and it's all part of getting on and delivering the biggest pipeline of transport infrastructure the city and the state has ever seen, and create tens of thousands of jobs at the same time. And the Premier's touched on some of the features of the work that's happening here as part of the Early Works package. The Early Works is a really important part of the North East Link project because it paves the way for major construction on the biggest road project the state has ever seen. It really does pave the way for that construction to start smoothly. And so whether it's the work here on the Yarra East main sewer and the relocation of that sewer with the 3 mini TBMs in action, other works across the Early Works site, which includes the relocation of up to 34 kilometres of utilities like sewers and gas pipes and electricity and telecommunications. This is a big part of the project, and it's also supporting 1,000 jobs at the same time. And because of these works, there will be some disruption in the local community around Greensboro and Bulleen on those roads while the early works are underway during this autumn period. But also too, we are seeing works across road and rail right across the state. And on our level crossing removal program at Werribee, on the 11th of March, the 46th level crossing will be gone at Cherry Street in Werribee with the construction of a road bridge. And leading up to that date, there will be some disruption in the local community whilst those construction works are finalised. And also too, on the Cranbourne line, work is underway on removing the final 4 level crossings on the Cranbourne line. Cranbourne line will be the first level crossing line, free line in Victoria when those works are completed. And over the period of March and April, there will be buses replacing trains as we get in and remove those level crossings and build a new Marinda Park station at the same time. And the Premier's touched on the work going at another range of sites across Melbourne, in Frankston, in Glenroy, in Hallam, right across the suburbs as we remove these dangerous and congested level crossings. Quickly, just on some of our other rail projects, the Metro Tunnel, we've got now 4 big TBMs in action on the Metro Tunnel project, and they're working very hard, and there will be a number of breakthroughs in the heart of the CBD, underneath the CBD, as there's major breakthroughs will be occurring at the new State Library Centre, at the new station, at the new Town Hall station, as the tunnel boring machines finish their work on the tunnelling part of the Metro Tunnel project over the course of this year. And there's work also, buses will be replacing trains on the Sunbury line during March and April for the Sunbury line works, and on the Warrnambool line too on our regional network. There's a big upgrade of our Warrnambool line to run extra trains, run them more quickly, and buses will also be replacing trains through March and April on the Warrnambool line works. And just to finish up on our road network, we're here at the North East Link. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on the Westgate Tunnel project as well to widen the Westgate Freeway, but also a couple of other big important road projects. The second stage of the Monash Freeway works, the $1.4 billion Monash Freeway works. Those works are underway, and from the end of March for up to 6 weeks on those local road networks, there will be changes to the network as we go in and add that extra lane capacity on the Monash Freeway. And also too on O'Hearns Road, again in the northern suburbs, there's work to add lanes and capacity and connections to the Hume Freeway, and that will also see some disruption to the local road network. All of these disruptions are part of building a better, stronger transport infrastructure system for people to move around more easily, more quickly and more safely. And that's what building our transport infrastructure is all about. It's about supporting those tens of thousands of jobs during construction, and that's never been more important. But it's also about, at the end of it, building better transport infrastructure that is giving people better access, fairer access to jobs, to services, to opportunities, and that makes us for a stronger Victoria as a whole. And that's why the Andrews Labor government is so determined to keep pushing on with this agenda and to keep building a pipeline of transport infrastructure projects for the future. I'll hand back to the Premier.
Happy to take any questions you have. Or not.
I was going to ask Duncan quickly.
Absolutely, Duncan, go for it.
Duncan, how are we tracking with early works, and when do you think the major works construction might start?
So the early works program is going very well. We are ramping up. Probably in the next month or so we'll have peak work happening with the early works program. The majority of that work will finish this calendar year. Some of it will tail into next year on some of the works in the Eastern Freeway, but the majority of the work in the northern part of the project will be complete later this year. We are obviously still in procurement for our major contract for the tunnel. We're in the final throes of that with bids due in next month, and we'll be in a position to recommend and announce a preferred builder about middle of the year, and then major construction will start late this year into early next year. So still on track for 27. The early works program on schedule and making good progress across a number of different sites.
How significant is TBM, the roof works, in terms of the project and getting all the rest?
So this is one of the biggest pieces of engineering in the early works program. This is quite a significant asset that we need to move. It's currently under the median strip on Bulleen Road, right in the middle of where we need to construct the tunnel through this area. So this is probably our biggest utilities piece of infrastructure that we have to move on the project. A lot of the work up north around Lower Plenty Road, Greensboro Highway, is making good progress over shorter lengths. So this is a long length of relocation and using TBMs to avoid the impact on the school grounds and the assets in this area.
When that work does ramp up, are we talking about road closures or just some lanes? How will it actually work?
So most of it's overnight, lane closures or road closures. Rarely road closures. Most of it can be done by just closing lanes, but most of that high impact work will be done overnight.
Sure. Any chance of Anzac Day in Victoria going?
Yeah, look, I saw some coverage about this today. I just want to be very clear with every veteran, every family of someone lost in war in the service of our freedom. We are working very closely with veterans groups to try and have an Anzac Day that is close to normal as possible. It's too early for me to be able to say exactly what that will look like. And I would just caution against, if I can, comparing an Anzac Day march with other events that are seated, ticketed. This is a very different event, and that's why it's so important. It is absolutely unique, and I know that after last year, where we found our own way to think about the fallen and to be grateful for their service and sacrifice in our own homes and out the front of our houses. We're all very keen to get back to something as close to normal as possible, and that's exactly what we're working on. I spoke with the Minister for Veterans Affairs, Minister Lean, on the way here today, and we are working very hard with all those relevant groups to try and have an Anzac Day that's as close to normal as possible, because it's very, very important. And can I say, not just to honour the sacrifice of those who didn't come home, but also to pay tribute to those who this very day serve overseas and serve in the defence of the things that we value.
What about a march? Any chance of a scale down march?
It's too early for us to be definitive about it, but obviously the march is an important part of that day, and we're all working as hard as we can to have a day that is as close to normal as possible, and not just at the Shrine, but a whole range of other events out in suburbs, regional communities. We're all working as hard as we can to make sure that it's a day where we appropriately commemorate those who made the ultimate sacrifice for all of us, and those who this day serve in the defence of our freedom. It's a very important day, and we'll make sure it's as close to normal as possible, and no one should underestimate the amount of work that's going on to try and achieve that. Oh, it's too early for me to speculate, but as I said, the march is an important part of it. I want it to be as close to normal as possible, so we're looking at all of those options, and we will do our very best in partnership with those service groups, ex-service groups I should say, veterans groups, who we have a very productive relationship with. You know, it hurt last year to have to do it very differently, but it was done for the best of reasons. And when you think about it, you know, the sacrifice that others made and that some make right now, you know, we have to value that, cherish that, but at the same time we have to be safe and we have to be smart. But we're all working as hard as we can to make it as close to a normal Anzac Day as possible, and as soon as we can give the veteran community, their families, the broader Victorian community clarity about that, we will.
When you think of the government, you think of putting money out of Facebook, because the government back putting $24 million out to promote COVID. I understand the state government spends money on Facebook. Would you call that?
Yeah, we do. I haven't got any. I've got no advice in relation to that. I've seen reports of what the Commonwealth Government are. I'm not sure whether they've made that announcement or whether they're talking about doing that. Look, I was asked a few questions about this last week. Obviously, the fact that so many sites that serve such important purposes, although I'd argue that, you know, everybody on Facebook within reason is there for an important purpose. We want more voices. We want more people talking about things that are important to them and us, not less. So whether it's the smallest country newspaper or the biggest tech platform, more voices, more opinion, that's a really healthy and important thing. On advertising, I don't have any advice about that, Dennis, but we'll monitor whatever the federal government's doing. Yes, because this is a Royal Commission to determine whether they're fit to hold that licence. So if you're having that process, you have to be clear that you'll implement the findings. It's going to be a rigorous process. This puts beyond doubt, and I'll just take you back to first principles. I'm not sure whether Minister Horn did this yesterday, but the 5-year review is really important, and we had committed to bring that forward. But the 5-year review is very much a point-in-time review of those who are running the business now. It can look back as well, but there were some doubts about whether we'd be able to be having the sort of detailed discussions we'd need to with people who used to work at Crown, and as you know, there's a number of people who have left in recent times. So this will be a different Royal Commission in that it's got a pretty narrow set of, its terms of reference are quite narrow, but when there's any doubt, plus there's this issue about the compo elements that were written in by the previous government. We want to protect the taxpayers' interests, the state's interest, and therefore, if there's any doubt, you go to the highest powers you can find, which is the Royal Commission. I think Mr. Former Judge Finkelstein will do a very good job. He's got the powers, the budget, and he'll come back with some findings.
We implement every recommendation.
That would certainly be my aim, and that is our form. If you look at Family Violence Royal Commission, Mental Health Royal Commission, that's to be tabled next week. Our ongoing commitment is to implement all the findings of that, and of course the Royal Commission in relation to police informants. We've similarly committed to implement all of those. So this is pretty narrow. It needs to be very focused on the fitness of that company to hold that licence. It's unique. There's only one of those licences in the state, and that's why the announcements were made yesterday, just moments after Cabinet had endorsed it. I think so. Oh, of course, any Royal Commissioner that came to us and said, I need more budget or I need more time, then we would always look at that carefully. This is about getting an outcome and having somebody who has spent many decades either at the bar as a senior member of the bar or as a federal court judge and serving on many different tribunals, someone who's got exactly the right skills to do this. We are confident that the 1st of August he'll have that work done. In the event that he needed more, then of course we would grant that extra time, but I don't think that'll be the case.
Should this announcement have been made, Premier, when the evidence was laid out in October 2019? And do you regret that it's taken 2 years, another state's inquiry, to prompt this action? And also, do you regret the defences of the DCGLR and Crown that you've given since October 2019?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Because I don't. I'm not someone who looks backwards. I've just made an important decision, Cabinet's made an important decision, and we're going to get the right outcome here. I haven't got time to be engaging in that sort of stuff. I'll leave that is essentially commentary, and you're the commentator. I'm not. I'll let you do that.
Why was a junior? Sorry, but why was a junior minister making an announcement or a commission announcement late in the afternoon without bringing up this?
Well, she's the gaming minister, and it's a matter of gaming, and she's perfectly capable of making the announcement. I'm standing here now. You know, we're really going to get into this. Why was one person at a presser and why wasn't the other? You know, if I did every presser, you'd be asking me questions about why isn't Minister A, B, C and D out? You know, come on, really. We've got more important things to worry about than that, I would think.
Why did it take the government?
Well, we have gone through the report. Oh, just be clear though, we made an announcement before Christmas about the 5-year review, right? So that's right. That was some time ago. We have been examining the report out of New South Wales after extensive legal advice, wanting to protect the interests of the states. We've got a licence extension that was granted by the previous government. There is a compensation clause in there that was written by the previous government, and we have to be careful to make sure we protect Victorian taxpayers' interests. That's what we're doing. And you're not going to get me standing here apologising for having put the highest and most formal legal process in place to determine whether that business should have that licence, the only one of its kind in the state. It'll report by the 1st of August, and we'll be able to make decisions then.
Can you explain what that compensation clause is and how much it's there?
Well, there's a clause in there that could be up to $250 million if the regulatory arrangements change. We don't want to see a process that then finishes up. We're in court, that is, all Victorians are in court for months, years, with an open-ended bill almost. So the Royal Commission, I think, puts a lot of that beyond doubt. There's more certainty. They've got the power to go and talk not just to current staff, but former staff. They'll do the job properly. This is about protecting the state's interests and making sure that we can all have confidence one way or the other that whomever holds that licence is fit to hold that licence and operates to the highest standards. It's a very important part of our city. And it's more than just the gaming floor. It's an entire precinct that is the biggest single-site employer in the state, but it has to be run to the highest of standards, and not just through what's been found, but what's been admitted. You couldn't say that. That's not the way the place has been operating for a period of time, by admissions made. Let's have this process, let's get to the bottom of all of those issues, and let's have that judgment, not our judgment, advice that comes to us from an eminent former jurist and someone who's spent a lifetime doing really important work. He will come back to us with findings, and we'll be able to make decisions from there.
To date, has there been any threat from Crown about enacting that clause?
No, it's not a matter of that isn't the issue. But as a matter of law, there are terms, there are elements of the Act that might give rise to compensation being paid. We need to be very careful to have a fair process, a proper process, but not one that puts the interest of the taxpayers at risk. And I think going to a Royal Commission, for all the reasons I've mentioned, puts those issues, it makes it a much more secure process in terms of the interests of Victorian taxpayers. Let's let it run its course, and then we'll get a report, and we'll be able to speak more freely then about whatever it is they find.
There's a recommendation to not issue Crown's licence. Could you ever foresee a situation in which there's no casino there? Would you try and facilitate a different casino to a company to run the show?
Well,
Would you see it as a possibility?
Well, I think. Look, I'm not critical of the question, but I have to say to you, I can't answer those questions now. We have to wait and see, because that's endless. If I start getting into ifs, buts and maybes, we'd be here a while. Well, let's let former Judge Finkelstein do his work. He'll report back, and then we'll be able to make, as a government, we'll be able to make important decisions then, and we'll be able to speak to you in much greater detail about what was found, what we decided to do, and what the future looks like. It's a very important part of our city. Again, I stress, not everybody's down there playing, blackjack. That's not everybody's cup of tea. But as an employer, and as a precinct that makes possible many different events and lots of economic activity, this needs to be done properly, and we are determined to do that.
Can I ask you about the cost balance of major projects? Sure.
Oh, now that you put it that way,
DTF told payout yesterday didn't have a timeline on delays, mainly the delays with the projects. Do you have that overall?
Well, Dennis, we've got a massive big build program of more than 120 projects happening right around the state, big and small, road and rail, and the vast majority of those projects are delivered on time and within budget, and importantly are employing tens of thousands of Victorians on delivering these important transport upgrades. I've not seen those comments or had any advice on the comments of the Department of Treasury and Finance's evidence to the Public and Accounts Estimates Committee yesterday. I can say though that the government has previously advised through over the course of last year, when we handed down a very big and important budget in November of last year that was also focused on jobs and infrastructure and investment in economic recovery as we rebuild bigger and better out of the pandemic, that we indicated when we come to the May budget, which is only a couple of months away, the budget papers will account for those issues around costs across all of the government's projects, not just transport infrastructure.
The Westgate Tunnel, has Transurban given you any more assurances since they announced the delay of 2024? Have they done anything to calm down some of the grievances you had with them?
Well, as I indicated, I think it was week before last, about 10 or 12 days ago, the government's position is very, very clear. Transurban brought this project to the government some 5 years or so ago. It has been through an extensive independent planning assessment process. Transurban engaged their builders to deliver this project and signed a contract with the Victorian government and the Victorian community. And we expect them to honour that contract that they've made to the Victorian government and the Victorian community to deliver the Westgate Tunnel project, remembering that much like this project, the North East Link, which is the missing link in the road network to the north that gets trucks off local roads, improves travel time, it is also, the Westgate Tunnel is similarly an important project in providing that alternative to the Westgate Bridge, getting trucks out of the inner west and providing for better freight movements in and out of the Port of Melbourne. And for those reasons, we expect Transurban to honour this contract. We won't accept their failure to date, and we'll continue to push very hard to see the completion of this project.
Premier, just with the return to work process,
Yep.
given we're nearing that 14 days, as you mentioned towards the end
Yes.
of the week, is there any update on when the numbers will be boosted up and maybe masks won't be required?
We will be having meetings throughout the week, and the Chief Health Officer will provide his advice so that most likely on Friday we'll be able to provide people with clarity about what rules will change at midnight Friday night. And it's my hope, and as we, I won't preempt the advice, but as I said before, I think we are very well placed given that those day 11 tests are moving through. We're seeing lots and lots of negative tests. People are doing the right thing. They're staying at home away from others. All things being equal, I'd hope to be able to make some significant announcements on Friday on advice from the Chief Health Officer, and that'll then mean we can go back to hopefully pretty much those COVID-safe summer settings, and then we'll have more to say at that time, and maybe even next week about getting up to 75% and having more and more people back into the office. The big question remains: will people go back to the office? That's a different issue. I don't think we've kind of had that many representations from businesses large and small that they have been breaching the cap, or there's a lot of pressure. I think many people, as I've said to you many times, many people are going to work some of the week from home. Not every worker every day, but there's going to be significant numbers of people who are spending much more time in the suburbs or in coastal communities or wherever it may be. This has happened for a year now. People are going to, I think, hang on to a bit of that, and that means that things change, and that's why we all have to work very hard to get the best major events. That's why we have to work as hard as we can to have big projects like this, because you don't have to work in construction to benefit from a massive construction program. 150,000 jobs are pegged against all the more than $100 billion worth of building that we are doing. All those people got pay packets, they've got certainty, they've got security for the future, they've got a long-term order book. They're out there spending. Their wages are moving through helping to pay the wages of lots and lots of other people. It's called the government underpinning demand, the government underpinning confidence. That's exactly what we're doing, and that's why this project, even if you don't live in the northern part of the city, is critically important to you, because it's about economic activity. We want to see as many people back in the office as possible, but I'm just being upfront. All the evidence I see is that there's going to be significant numbers of people who make a different choice, at least some part of that week, to not necessarily work from where they used to work. They might work in the suburbs, they might work at home. This global pandemic has changed many things. We have to respond to each of those.
Do you think that the COVID normal, that we talk about will last right through until the vaccine is fully rolled out?
Look, I think the Chief Health Officer spoke to this very point, Dennis, the other day when he said, look, it's going to take us the rest of this year to get enough people with the jab to completely change things. Now, it may be, as we get particularly the most, frontline workers, those who are tested most often, so all those groups of people that we test every single day, we get border force all the way through to hotel workers, frontline workers, they all get the jab, the first shot and the second. Then we start moving through the vulnerable, so we go the oldest residents in aged care, for instance, all the way through to people that have got chronic, complex health issues. That may well be a time at which things can change, because the most vulnerable are fundamentally protected from the very worst health outcomes of this virus. So I think it's not a matter of will all the rules be off by the end of the year. I think probably the better way to look at it is there may be an opportunity to change some of the rules as we progressively get more and more people, particularly those who, if they get this virus, are every chance to get gravely ill as they get the vaccination. That's when things may be able to change further. But you know, we are at the beginning of the end of this pandemic. We are not at the end of it yet. That can't come fast enough, but it's not now.
You booked in for your jab clinic?
Not yet, but I'm very much focused on people frontline workers getting it, and those who are vulnerable. And as a result of my age, and as a result of the fact I don't have a whole lot of underlying health conditions, there are people that are far more needy than me, and they should be getting the jab before I do. I just stress, I will be getting it, Kath will be getting it, the kids will be getting it, my mum will be getting it, because it works. It's our way out of this. So that shouldn't be in any way interpreted as a lack of confidence. Far from it. I am more than confident that the world's scientists have worked so hard to think that this, particularly the AZ, is going to be manufactured here in Melbourne. That should be a great point of pride for every single Victorian. When I do get it, probably from my local pharmacist or my local GP, I'll be sure and send a photo around so that everyone's in no doubt that I have had it done. We'll use some of those dreaded tech platforms, Dennis, to get that message out, no doubt.
Sorry, just another one on ground.
Yes.
Many months ago, the state opposition's point to a Royal Commission into our handling of the pandemic down here after the second wave. One of the arguments that the government used at the time was that we have an inquiry, the code inquiry is looking into these matters, and it wouldn't serve any purpose having another long inquiry in place of resources. We've just had a New South Wales inquiry into the exact evidence that this Royal Commission will be assessing. What do you think this inquiry will find that the New South Wales inquiry has not already comprehensively covered, and that the VCGLR in their inquiry that's going to begin very soon will not also cover? Sure,
there's a few issues there. Firstly, what the Liberal Party call for is of no concern to me. They are fundamental. You raised it. They're fundamentally irrelevant to the work that I do. That's the first point. Second point, in terms of, I think it's a bold call to say, which I'm sure you'll point out if I misunderstood your question, but if you're proposing that we ought find continue to renew the light, we as in the Victorian government, on behalf of the Victorian people, and you need to have a process that can withstand any challenge. Again, I want to be clear, I'm not foreshadowing that they're losing it, and I'm also not foreshadowing that they get to keep it. That is an open question. That's why we've got this process, and I can't, you may be more certain than me that they're only going to look at the issues that have already been covered. What they find, what they inquire into is entirely a matter for them. That's why it's the highest and most formal legal vehicle to have a look at, not just what's been admitted to, not what's been led in evidence in New South Wales, not just what the VCGLR would look at on any given day. They will look at everything, and that's the appropriate thing to do, so that at the end of that process, people can have confidence one way or the other that these matters have been put beyond doubt. no matter which way we finish up going.
And just on what it was looking to,
Yes.
inquiry looking to the VCGLR and Victoria Police's regulation over the last year, looking to the regulators?
No, this is a Royal Commission, or this is a review with the powers of a Royal Commission. We won't split hairs, but that's a sense very narrow into the fitness of the licence holder to hold that licence. I'll have more to say, and I think Minister Horn may have gone to this yesterday as well. I will have more to say about how we regulate what is a unique set of circumstances. There is only one licence, and as I think in answer to a question that Rich asked me the other day, I think there is a very strong case, and we will move to have a standalone regulator of that single casino licence. I think that is the right thing to do, and I'll have more to say about that soon.
You're saying that's a definite action to take. There will be a
Yeah, I'm not waiting for the Royal Commission. They're not looking at that. We are going to make. We've already made it clear. Cabinet yesterday determined that we should do the work to build that system. That's exactly what we'll do, and we'll have more to say about that soon. The Royal Commission is not, have a look at everything. It's looking very specifically, and it will be as rigorous as it needs to be on the question of are they fit to hold that licence or not. They can go wherever they want to, they can look as deeply as they want to, they've got the budget, they've got the person, I think, and they've got the powers they need. But it's not a review into gaming, in every setting across the whole state. It is a review into the fitness of the current casino licence holders to continue to hold that licence. And that's the most important thing that we can do. It's the most legally safe thing that we can do, not putting at risk the interests of Victorian taxpayers. And it will report on August the 1st, and we'll get on and respond to it when it does.
How does it feel?
Well, I wasn't at the tennis, but in any event, people, well, I'm not particularly fussed about that. Wouldn't be the first time. I think just after the last election I was at the tennis and a few people had a few things to say. Look, it's a fantastic event. It's a free country, and people will have different views on different issues, and not something I've given a lot of thought to, Dennis. I'm sure the vaccines feelings are hurt though. I don't know why you'd be booing that. That's our way out. That is our way out. And I'd encourage every single Victorian to, when you're approached as part of the program to come and get vaccinated, please do that. Because it's how we move from the beginning of the end of this pandemic to the genuine full stop on this thing, which will take some time, but we need everybody to go and get the jab.
Just on that extra level of regulation, Rich, do you need to legislate that to bring in? How would that process go about?
There's, as I said, we'll have more to say, but we will almost certainly need to do that policy work, have a proposal that we put forward, and it may well involve having to change the Act. We've looked very closely at the work that's been done in New South Wales. We've looked very closely at the admissions that have been made along the way. We've made the appropriate decision, and I do, again, I'll answer all your questions as often as I can and as clearly as I can. But we do just, all of us, I think, have to acknowledge there's now a process happening, and you've got a much greater degree of freedom than I do. I don't want to say anything that might see a very large bill get presented to the Victorian taxpayer. So I won't reflect on them. It's just statements of fact. There were admissions made, there were findings made, but it's for us to renew who holds a licence in our state. We can't, I think, with any sense of legal certainty, use the findings of others to change who does or does not have a licence here. So we've got our own process. It will be done in good time, the right person, the right powers and the right budget, and this is the right process, and we'll have more to say on or about the 1st of August once that Royal Commission work is done. Any other issues? There's a tip for the future. Thank you very much. See you soon.